Good morning, viewers, wherever you are joining us from. This is your weekly news roundup on Atlantic TV with me, Omar Taal. We begin the roundup where the Borough Administration has sparked with the National Audit Office over forceful removal of the Auditor General Maud Sise, based on the decision that Sise accepted the appointment as Trade Minister, just before his dramatic turn of things in 24 hours. Information Minister Dr. Ismail Sise has denied any move that he misled the public about Auditor General Mr. Sise. Former Justice Minister Abubakar Batembedu appears before the National Assembly Select Committee addressing questions about the assets of the former president. On the international scenes, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the world leaders to put their difference aside, as no country can do it alone at the 80th ordinary session of the General Assembly. As world's problem is a stress test that must be passed through concerted effort. President Trump has lashed out at the world leaders at the 80th second of the General Assembly, accusing the UN of failing to address world's problem and says member state of the United Nations will go to hell. Lazarus Chakwera have considered election to 85-year-old former President Peter Mutharika in a televised address to the nation and assured the incoming administration of smooth and orderly transfer of power. Voters in Guinea have overwhelmingly backed the new constitution that could allow the coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya to run for president if he chooses to, according to the final results given. Israel has intensified its offensive to occupy Gaza with hundreds of people desperate and unwilling to move, as international calls grow for these escalations. The U.S. Federal Reserve lowers the interest rate as President Trump received welcome at the Windsor Castle by King Charles, in a welcome seen by many as one of the best in history. This is the news in summary. We now bring you in detail. In a dramatic show of force and outrage, the Borough Administration has sworn an attempt in compromising the independence and the credibility of the National Audit Office by forcefully removing the Auditor General, which triggered widespread condemnation, with many Gambians accusing the government of attempting to undermine accountability and transparency. More in this report. In a dramatic turn of events, Gambian's Auditor General Mamadou Sise was forcibly removed from his office after refusing to accept cabinet appointment as Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment. President Adam Barrow's administration sparked widespread outrage after deploying police officers to escort Sise out of the National Audit Office. Sise had declined the cabinet position, citing his commitment to his role as Auditor General and the importance of maintaining the independence of the National Audit Office. However, President Barrows claims Sise initially accepted the appointment before later changing his mind. The disagreement has ignited a heated debate about the government's intention and the potential erosion of democratic institutions in the Gambia. The forceful removal of Sise has triggered widespread condemnation, with many Gambians accusing the government of attempting to undermine accountability and transparency. Activists including Chemo Fati and Aliuba have been vocal in their criticisms, with Fati warning that if Sise is not reinstated, President Barrow might face consequences. Both activists were later arrested by the police. The government defends the appointment as merit-based and denies any intention to interfere with the operations of the National Audit Office. However, critics argue that the move is a calculated effort to shield key institutions from scrutiny, particularly in light of ongoing corruption allegations. Sise has vowed to take legal action to challenge his removal and affirm the independence of National Audit Office.
Consulted with our council, so we are now putting the matter to him. We will proceed with the necessary process. So we will allow them now to do the necessary.
His lawyers has promised a robust defense of constitutional principle, potentially escalating the matter to the Supreme Court. Reporting for Atlantic TV News, this is Omar Taal. That report by Atlantic TV's Omar Taal was for the end of this. Before we now move to the Information Minister, Dr. Ismail Sise, who has firmly denied accusation that he misled the public regarding the controversy surrounding the appointment of Auditor General Mamadou Sise. Speaking in an interview with West Coast Radio, Dr. Sise insisted that he never lied about the matter. He maintained that Mamadou Sise initially accepted the position of Auditor General before later declining it. I would not have the audacity to come and face the Gambian people unknowingly and intentionally mislead them for the purpose of misleading. I will never do that. That is not my nature. It is not my character to do, Dr. Ismail Assise stated. We now go to the former Justice Minister Abubakar Ba Tembedu, who appears before the National Assembly Select Committee to give testimonies on the sales of the Jammeh asset. Mr. Tembedu, in his deliberation before the commission, said, "I wholeheartedly welcome this commission. I am an open advocate for transparency and accountability." Tembedu stated, emphasizing his commitment throughout his tenure in government. He noted that his personal attendance at the inquiry underscored the importance of addressing the misinformation surrounding Jammeh's asset sales. This is a unique opportunity to set the record straight. He added, highlighting the need to clear misconception. Tembedu characterized the committee's effort as potentially fault-finding. He acknowledged the inevitable of flaws within any process that involves many individuals and various activities. I can guarantee the committee that you will find flaws. However, if you are looking for evidence for improper conduct or unlawful action motivated by personal agenda, I assure you, you will not find anything asserted. That was the former Justice Minister Abubakar Ba Tembedu, who appeared before the National Assembly Select Committee on the inquiry of the former president's asset. That brings us to the end of the national news. We now shift attention to the international scene, where we are going to start at the United Nations General Assembly, where Secretary General Guterres speaks at the opening of the 88th Ordinary Session of the United Nations General Assembly, recalling the choice made 80 years ago to put cooperation over chaos, law over lawlessness, and peace over conflict, which are the founding principles of the United Nations. 80 years ago, from the ashes of war, the world planted a seed of hope. One charter, one vision, one promise, that peace is possible when humanity stands together. Let's hear more from the UN chief.
No country can stop a pandemic alone. No army can halt rising temperatures. No algorithm can rebuild trust once it is broken. These are global stress tests of our system, our solidarity, and our resolve. I'm convinced we can pass these tests, and we must. Because people everywhere are demanding something better, and we owe them a system worthy of their trust and a future worthy of their dreams. And so we must make the choice, an active choice, to reaffirm the imperative of international law, to reassert the centrality of multilateralism, to reinforce justice and human rights, and to recommit to the principles that gave rise to our organization.
That was the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressing the member states of the United Nations to put their differences aside and work toward a better and safer world. At the same place at the General Assembly, where the US President Donald Trump, in a blistering address to the United Nations General Assembly, charging the institution for failing to act to solve spiraling conflicts and immigration wars and deriding its empty word that don't solve war. More from ABC News.
Tonight, President Trump taking aim at the United Nations, attacking the member countries as their leaders sat and watched.
Your countries are going to hell.
The president frustrated from the start when his teleprompter wasn't working.
I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
Earlier, when he arrived with the First Lady, the escalator they were riding abruptly stopped, forcing them to walk up. At the podium,
These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much.
the president then lashing out.
It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The president, who we all know very well, and he's a brave man.
Later, President Trump turning to the war in Ukraine, seeming to surprise Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky by declaring NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace. Russian aircraft have recently flown over both Poland and Estonia.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
The president asked if the U.S. would be ready to back up NATO if that happens.
Depends on the circumstance, but, we're very strong toward NATO.
President Trump has gone back and forth on the war for months, one day supporting Ukraine and the next embracing Vladimir Putin. Just 5 weeks ago, rolling out the red carpet on American soil, clapping as the Russian leader approached, warmly shaking his hand. But today, a break.
Unfortunately, that relationship didn't mean anything, unfortunately.
And then from the president, a major reversal. Where just a few weeks ago, he implied Russia could keep some of the Ukrainian land it had stolen. Tonight, President Trump posting, "I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form."
We'll let them get their land back.
Yep.
So we'll see how it all works out.
And again, just weeks after meeting with President Putin, President Trump now saying that their relationship did not mean anything. Russia continuing to attack Ukraine and now provoking NATO. The big question tonight, will the U.S. try to do anything to stop him? David.
Michael Scott reporting on Trump's speech at the General Assembly at the United Nations, where he lambasted the United Nations for failing to do its job for a period of 80 years. The Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera have considered the election to the 85-year-old former President Peter Mutharika in a televised address to the nation. Over 7 million people have voted in this year's election in a country marred by food shortage and famine. According to the 2024 reports by Human Rights Watch, Malawi is the fourth poorest country in the world, where 80% of the population depends on agriculture, and natural disasters are frequent, including 2023 cyclone which killed over 200 people. More from CGT and report.
85-year-old Mutharika is returning to a job he held until 2020 when he lost to Lazarus Chakwera in a rerun ordered by a court. As of this year's election, Mutharika has beaten Chakwera twice, the first time being 2014, and lost to him once. After hinting that he was retiring from politics, Mutharika launched a bid for the presidency, saying he was returning to rescue the nation. His Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, ran a vigorous campaign promising a return to the good old days. He accused Chakwera of mismanaging the economy, which is battling high inflation, power blackouts, fuel and currency shortages. Life under Mutharika was comparatively easier for most Malawians. Inflation was in single digits, and his program of giving fertilizer to maize farmers promoted food security and kept prices down. Inflation skyrocketed to as high as 33% under Chakwera. Despite his performance on the economy, many Malawians will remember Mutharika's first reign as one filled with corruption scandals. As president, Mutharika was accused of accepting over $200,000 from a businessman under investigation for tender fraud. He's the brother of Bingu Mutharika, who led Malawi for 2 terms before dying in office in 2012. A constitutional law expert, Peter was his brother's right-hand man. After Bingu's death, Peter was accused of concealing the news in an attempt to succeed his brother instead of Vice President Joyce Banda as stipulated by the law. He was charged with treason and conspiracy to commit a felony.
That was CGTN report on the outcome of the Malawian election, where the former President Peter Mutharika, who ruled Malawi from 2014 to 2020, has made a comeback as the country's 7th president, winning the election with 65% of the vote. We go to Guinea, where voters have paved the way for military ruler Mamadi Doumbouya to run in December election after 4 years of transition, with 96% of the voters overwhelmingly approved the new constitution, which allowed for a 7-year mandate of the president. But critics call the result a power grab. But the military government said the referendum paves the way for a return to civilian rule. The presidential election is currently expected to take place in December. More from Al Jazeera's Ahmed Idris in Conakry.
After taking power in a coup and leading Guinea for 4 years, Mamadi Doumbouya cast his vote in a referendum that could pave the way to the presidency and 7 years in office. At a voting station on the other side of the capital, his prime minister says this marks a turning point for the West African country.
We will return to our constitutional order, ensuring Guinea's place on the African and international stage. For 4 years we have been sidelined because of sanctions, but I believe now many things will change for the better.
The military leadership and its supporters have campaigned long and hard for this day, convincing people like Zainab Barry to take part in the referendum.
Life is very hard, especially in the markets. The leadership must improve this problem, especially for us women.
Many Guineans say even a flawed constitution is better than none at all.
We are young. We will soon have a new constitution. We want to work. That's what they promised. We want those promises realized.
Security is tight here in Conakry. Government has deployed 45,000 personnel and attack helicopters to discourage violence or protests. Critics say such show of force is meant to intimidate voters.
Ahead of the referendum, public demonstrations were banned and political parties suspended. Among them, the two largest in the country. Senior opposition figures went into hiding or exile. They say the referendum is part of a plan to cement the current leadership's authority. Despite criticism from the opposition and some rights activists, supporters say the draft constitution contains some positives. It provides for increased representation of women in government, as well as the establishment of a high court and a senate. Crucial steps, they say, in the return to an elected government. Ahmed Idris, Al Jazeera, Conakry.
That was Al Jazeera's Ahmed Idris reporting in Conakry in Guinea on the Guinea's referendum, where 97% of voters paved the way for the military ruler Mamadi Doumbouya to contest in December's presidential election. The Israeli military began a ground offensive in Gaza City, the Israeli Defense Force said on Tuesday, with 2 IDF divisions moving toward the city. In images taken from the Israeli-Gaza border, plumes of smoke could be seen rising above the city, which is the largest in the city's Gaza Strip. Large explosions were reported across the city through Tuesday and Wednesday. About 400,000 people have evacuated Gaza City as of Wednesday, according to IDF. Some 600,000 people are believed to remain in Gaza City. ABC's News, James Lomman.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians tonight are making the desperate escape from Gaza City as Israel launches a massive military operation to occupy it.
Airstrikes raining down as tanks roll in, although many say they won't leave and they're refusing to be forced out. The race to get out of the danger zone in cars, on bikes or just by foot, but nowhere in Gaza is safe. It's not our fault that October 7th happened, says this woman. It's not our fault. Repeated pleas from hostage families, scared for the 48 remaining in captivity, going unanswered by the Netanyahu government, who says the push is needed to destroy Hamas. This, as a UN commission now says Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. The independent commission finding Netanyahu among those responsible for killing civilians on purpose, cutting them off from aid and supplies.
A ceasefire seems further away than ever, David. Secretary of State Rubio was today in Doha trying to salvage talks days after Israel tried to bomb the Hamas leadership there.
That was James Lomman reporting in Israel, where Israel military have bombed settlements in Gaza. Under the pressure from President Trump, Federal Reserve has cut key interest rate by 1/4%, citing a weakening job market in the United States. It comes as President Trump is welcomed with a royal pageantry in the UK. The British are hoping to make a deal with Trump to help them to build their economy. It was a royal welcome, but thousands protesting the president's arrival. More from ABC's News, Mary Bruce.
FBI Director Kash Patel back on the Hill, facing House Democrats laser-focused on his handling of the Epstein files.
Did you ever tell Donald Trump his name is in the files?
I have never spoken to President Trump about the Epstein files.
Democrats trying to tie President Trump to the files.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
Question has been asked and answered.
You've not answered it, and we will take your evasiveness as a consciousness of guilt.
And Thomas Massie of Kentucky, a top House Republican, challenging Patel on his claim that there is no credible information Epstein trafficked women to anyone other than himself. His claim coming after several alleged victims of Epstein spoke out, some threatening to release a list of people they say Epstein trafficked women to.
Have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names.
California Democrat Ted Lieu referencing Trump's alleged birthday greeting featuring the drawing of a woman provided to Congress earlier this month by Epstein's estate. A letter the president claims is fake. Lieu asking Patel if they will go after the estate for more evidence.
Would it be great if FBI subpoenaed the estate of Jeffrey Epstein for all that information?
The estate is under no obligation to provide that material, even pursuant to a subpoena. That's a great point.
Yeah, that's just false.
Okay.
That's just false. You're the frickin' FBI. You can subpoena the information from the estate, and you better do that.
David, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein say he did not operate alone, and they're pushing Congress to keep investigating.
That brings us to the end of this news, but before we go, we give you the run-up. The Barrow administration has sparked with the National Audit Office over the forceful removal of Modou Cissé. Information Minister Dr. Ismaila Cissé denies misleading the public about the controversial appointment surrounding the Auditor General, Modou Cissé. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on the world leaders to put their difference aside, as no country can do it alone at the 80th ordinary session of the General Assembly in New York. President Trump has lashed out at the world leaders at the UN General Assembly, accusing UN of failing to address world's problem and says member states will go to hell. Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera has conceded defeat to the former President Peter Mutharika in an election what many seen as a bitterly contested. This brings us to the end of the news. Join us next week for more national and international stories. Me, Omar Taal, and the rest of the team here at Atlantic, we thank you.